Welcome all to the Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Please send us your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. All past shows are archived. You can find them at artistfirst.com. Now, out to your hosts. It's Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And tonight we are having some technical difficulties, but we are going to persevere. Or preserve. Or pervert something. I don't know. We're going to do any one of those things. So if we sound slower than normal, that's just your ears. Anyway, so without further ado, tonight we're going to reference a quote by someone who may not be all that familiar to people, but if I said Oliver Twist, you would probably recognize that particular story. And or it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. These are some classic stories that have come down to us from a man by the name of Charles Dickens. And Dickens was an author. He lived in, I guess, the early part of the 19th century. Yeah, I would say so, right? Maybe the pre-Victorian into the Victorian era. And what he wrote about in large was, he had a keen eye for societal issues in a way that he was able to present them in a way that illustrated the breadth and the depth of human existence in relationship to the society that he was portraying. In this case, it was the post-industrial or middle of the Industrial Revolution England. And specifically in the story of Oliver Twist, you see this sort of portrayal of that society and that culture. And Dickens himself was also, as many authors are, an observer of human nature. So this quote is more along the lines, rather than a fiction, but of sort of his observations. So that's the preface, if you will. Would you like to read the quote?
Yeah, I can do that. The whole difference between construction and creation is exactly this. A thing constructed can only be loved after it's constructed, but a thing created is loved before it exists.
Before it exists. And, people would say, well, there's no difference there, perhaps. They might say there's no difference there between construction and creation. And in one aspect, creation does involve, perhaps, the transformation of some material into some other thing, into, you're taking base rock or pigments or wood and using your skill to turn it into something else. But one of the basic differences in the product of construction versus creation is that construction is something which you can do with instructions, by rote, or with a plan. Okay, you can plan to build a building, and you can take every part of it and make the individual parts, and then fit them together and go story by story and come up with a beautiful building, which you then can repeat again and again and again. And in Dickens's Victorian era, the idea of this repeatability especially in the Industrial Revolution, the idea that you could set a process and then create a repeatable, high quality product over and over again, something which many industrialists perfected. The automobile with Ford and so on as later. But regardless, this whole idea of construction and the idea of planning and having a plan to make something was a huge advancement. Prior to that, you would have to hire an artisan, a craftsman, and that each individual craftsperson would create something which would perhaps serve the purpose, a beautiful piece of furniture, whatever, but yet it would be perhaps almost impossible to duplicate. You might say, well, I'd like a pair of whatevers, and the artisan would make the pair right at the same time. And then 10 years later, if you said to the same person, well, could you make me another pair? And they go, well, might not have the same wood, might not have the same thing, might have to do, and you might get something similar, but it wouldn't be a new construction, it would be a new creation. So there's sort of the beginning of the illustration of the difference, Margaret, right? Because that artisan or that craftsperson is creating a unique thing. We're still there. I still hear you.
Oh, now I hear you.
So we're creating a new thing here. They're creating a new thing each time. And they don't have a plan. They, in fact, kind of figure it out as they go. And that's sort of one of the aspects of the process of creation, is you have to imagine it. It has to be within you before it can come out of you. Construction doesn't have to be within you. You can just say to a reasonably skilled person, build me this, and they'll say, well, how do I do it? Well, so here's the plans. Here's how you do it. And if you can nail two boards together and follow these instructions, you'll end up with something which will be a serviceable table. And you will have to know very little about the artistry of table making or of joinery. You don't have to be a master joiner to create a table from a set of plans.
Right. Well, as Dickens was saying, that the creation of something involves loving something before it exists.
Mm.
And I believe that is the prime difference. Because even when you're putting together something, if you're creating it for a purpose or a reason, or how do I even say that?
Intention?
Yes. Because the creation of something that is usually something is created because it answers a need, some kind of need or purpose. And when you begin to narrow down the process, just as they did in the 19th century, where you could produce en masse objects, like as you started out with the automobile. They had made a
assembly line.
Yeah, the assembly line was a great innovation for that. Although there was a lot of craftsmen still that had to be there in order to do it, but they had broken it down into sections that each one was going to take care of. And when you look at creation, as Dickens had said, construction of something is a process that is involved in creation. So the initial object that you're making, or the initial prototype, involves a lot of creation. There's a lot of, you look at it and you're like, you want to bring this in. You want to manifest it. You want to create it. And there is a lot involved with that. It's not just a mental process. The mental is part of it to get it in order, to note what works and what doesn't. But the whole thrust of it is that yearning to bring into existence something that had not existed before.
Right.
You can't just rely on the mental aspect. It is a part of it. But the problem is when you go into process, the process involves construction of it and what is viable and what is not. But if you focus only on it, you lose that aspect of flexibility.
I like a lot exactly what you say. So just to rephrase, the creative process occurs within first. You envision a thing, and yes, I agree with you. It is often driven by a need, but sometimes that need, and artists will often express this. I have a need to create. So there's a fulfillment or a longing, a desire to create something, as you just said, something which has not yet existed. It does exist first within the artist. The artist conceives something much like a child is conceived. It is hidden. It is within. It is entirely I hesitate to say the mind. It's entirely within the being of the artist. And then the artist has to use, as you said, construction techniques. It has to, if you're going to manifest something into reality, you are constrained. But within yourself, you're not constrained. You can conceive of things which cannot be possibly constructed. But yet you can hold them within you. And maybe for years you'll say, I know I want this to be, yet I can figure out no way to make it physically. Yet it doesn't matter. It is already loved, cherished, and within the being which is me. It is a piece of me. And then perhaps 10 or 20 years later, suddenly the ability to manifest it becomes more real. I'm reminded in some ways of Lucasfilms. The initial technology that was needed to put his creation into film didn't exist. So in essence, he broke new ground in the technology so that he could then take what existed within his mind, within his being, and bring it to something that could be appreciated by hundreds of millions of people. But the initial technology, the constructive tools didn't even exist.
Well, I'm reminded of the description by Michelangelo of how he would create his pieces. And just as he did with David, it was a slab of marble. Mm-hmm. And he had said that what he was doing was letting the marble speak to him and then revealing the form that was hidden within.
Mm-hmm. Already there.
It was already there, and it had to be revealed. And that's how I look at it, creation. There's something that needs to be revealed. There's a mystery. The first acknowledgement is there is a mystery in the moment. Mm-hmm. So what is it that will be revealed in this moment? For him, that moment was looking at this giant slab of marble and understanding that there was something inside. When you're talking about what Lucasfilms was doing, Yes and no. Many times you might have a storyline that you're trying to go for, but many times it's the characters that drive the story, as opposed to having this idea that you want to put forth. That's why they have storyboards, because they put those concepts in front of their eyes to see how it may play out. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, because they understand that the character that's there is not going to go in one direction, but would go in another. So what needs to be revealed?
I love that. That's exactly right. And it's the difference between high art, like the Pietà, and something which is not so high of an art. You know, the Pietà, or things like it, Da Vinci's and so on, they are timeless. And I think the act of creation, if you look at the universe as an act of creation of spirit, of the all-being, it is a timeless thing. So those things which echo that level of creation, because I believe creation has levels, and perhaps there's a spectrum from simple construction to creation. But let's not beg that question. I just say that creation has levels, and when you talk about the Pietà or Michelangelo basically looking at a block of marble, what you see there is not just a block of marble and a man. What you see is an individual, that being, perceiving the mystery, and knowing that the mystery will be revealed when his being wishes it to be. In other words, he's already got within himself. He can look at the block of marble, and then he could do nothing at all to actually reveal it to anyone else. But that moment of revelation has already occurred. He could say to himself, "I know that the Pietà is within this block of marble," and walk away. And it will never be revealed to another, but yet it already exists, in the sense that his being has acknowledged its existence within this block of marble. One could then, dance a few angels on a few heads of pins and think, well, okay, well, actually it's within him. Yes, it is in one regard, but it required the extension of being into non-being in order to realize, in order to concretize the mystery, to understand that the reflection of what was within was also from without, from the not being, from the not me, and then you can say, okay, if I really wish to reveal it to Joe Schmo over here, I got a lot of work to do. And he had tremendous skill in artistry, and was able to, through those techniques, those constructive techniques, unveil, or as you said, reveal the mystery, so that anybody, all of us, can then appreciate what was first created and loved, as Dickens says, from within the being of this one individual, this Michelangelo. So, I mean, that's really the most succinct description here. Is that, you said it a moment, but maybe it was even more profound, that instant of revelation, when it strikes within you, that this is here. This exists, and I perceive it.
The mystery is revealed of what lies within. And it is a profound moment for the person, because then when you see that, he had all the skill to be able to reveal it. And he understood that it would take time
Mhm.
to do this.
Would you say that there's in the revelation, there's not just your being and the not being, the marble, if you will, but you're also channeling a bit of creator source at the same moment. The revelation is to say that through the perceptions that I received from source, I'm able to perceive the mystery. And then I have a choice, right? The choice is, do I wish to devote the resources, the time, the skill, the sweat, blood, and tears to unveil what I already know exists? Because between you, me, and source, we know. Or between you, rather, the object and source, the thing that you're looking at, the revelation, but we know that this is there. And it's already complete. In the being of Michelangelo and in the revelation, the perfection of the Pietà is probably, even to, he would say, it's not what was within me. It's as close as I could possibly come in marble to
You
what
mean the David?
Aren't they both Michelangelos? The David or the Pietà. They're both as... well, you said the David, yes.
I thought you said Da Vinci did Pietà.
I'm going to have to be refreshed. Let's go back. The David. Regardless, I'm sorry. But regardless, what I mean to say is that the concept that was within the being of the artist, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, whomever, is beyond the ability of physical matter to truly represent. And then through tremendous skill, blood, sweat, and tears, you come as close as you possibly can, so that someone who had never conceived of such a thing and didn't have the connection to source can feel it, can feel the echo of the revelation centuries later, perhaps, and and understand that this is something so close to the perfection of the concept of the actual revelation that there's a connection there, that I'm now connected to the mind, heart, soul, and being of this great soul that had this revelation, back to source too. So that's what makes it great art. Not, there's art, but then there's Da Vinci, and then there's
passion in the piece. The life force is there,
mm-hmm.
and you can perceive it because your soul perceives it.
Yes.
There are soulless pieces of art, and then there are soulful pieces of art, just like in music or in anything else. You know when the soul is responding to an expression in front of it, and it makes that heart-to-heart connection. You're like, you understand, but it's not a mental understanding. It's a much broader sense. There is an aspect of mental, let's say, but the appreciation of it is so full that in that moment you feel that there's a level of intimacy.
Intimacy, yes.
That is expressed. You know that you are sharing a moment in the moment of now with someone who had created something hundreds of years ago. And that is the ability of human-to-human relationship. That is its beauty, and that is it's eternal. It's not ephemeral. Even though the form may fall, you still continue to touch souls through time.
And I like what you said. The form may fall. Yes, the human form, the form of the artist, is long gone, long dust. And even the artwork itself is form, and it will also be as in and of itself ephemeral. However, the capturing of the concept to the extent that this device is able to hold the revelation and represent as close as it can the perfection of the revelation, then the connection is maintained, and these are vehicles. These are vehicles for a communication which extends the form of the artist, which we're limited as human beings to a certain span of years, a certain length of time, and we can never exceed that. Beyond a certain point, you can't exceed it. Yet, someone who was not yet conceived by their own parents, can be in touch with the soul essence of a being from, as you said, hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. If you, again, let's go back to the cave paintings. Lascaux is the most, is what people understand, the famous, but there are many. The images which are highly evocative and I would contend are as high in art in many ways as by the way, Michelangelo did do the Pietà as well, but regardless, as Michelangelo's art or very many others, are some of these renderings in tallow and charcoal and natural pigments on rock walls, because we as human beings 30, 40,000 years later, hundreds and thousands of generations later, we can feel the spirit of the revelation of the artist who put this creation within his or her being and said, the best I can possibly do, this within me, I hold the revelation of the strength of this animal, of the purity of its spirit, of how I will use its life force to feed my own. I will take that perfection, that concept of revelation, and do the absolute best that I can with these crude materials and this crude medium to represent it. And it's so perfect a representation because of the essence which is embodied within it, that 10,000 generations later, it evokes the same power. You look and you say, you see this animal which has been dust for those many years, and this being which has been dust for a similar length of time, and you understand that this was something of the life force of the essence of this being that he or she wanted to tell, to reveal from within itself. Put it onto this, and it comes through as loud and clear as though they had been able to say it to you, because the same importance, the life force that is required, speaks to us today, because we aren't any different in that regard as far as spirit is concerned. We are barely, there's barely been a tick on the eternal clock between the 40,000-year-old bison and today. None. And so the echo, that one heartbeat there is just an expanding echo of the beat here. And you feel the purity of that, and it is a thought, but it's more than a thought. It's that concept, that love. So the love of it comes through. I think it's powered by love.
Yes. Well, it's the human experience. understanding that the human experience is brought together by relationship, one human to another. So in that creation of the artwork on the walls of Lascaux, or Lascaux, it was done to be evocative of the internal mystery of what life is. The idea was you're walking through that cave structure, and they were using torches. So the shadows would move the images, flickering. There would be an internal life to it that speaks deeply to our human experience, understanding that the interaction between us and the outside world depends on the light and how clear it actually is, how we perceive things around us, at distance.
And isn't it as a common dream, too?
And emotion. Emotion is really what we ride on that allows us to traverse time, to touch another soul in the past or one in the future. We ride the waves of emotion. And
that it also echoes that now to this now, in the same now.
The experience, which is human.
Well, now we should probably go back to the studio and come back on the other side of the break and talk a little bit more about Dickens and creation and construction.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron, and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There Is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I just wanted to, before we get going into the second half of the show, I wrote a little bit of something to go with the Dickens quote, and I was just looking at it over again, and there's something very interesting in there. We ended it with, "We are born to be creators." And we are, the evidence is everywhere, because what lasts and what we remember are not the everyday and the mundane and the things you have to do and the things you're kind of pushed through life, reacting to things and so on. It's the things which resonate with the heart, which become part of our eternity bank, part of our experience well, which I think influence, let's call it the common dream field, okay, the field in which we exist here, that we can influence our portion of it, and it can transmit without time and without space restraints, without the restraints of our own physical existence here, to another in the far future, or in a very different place, a different culture, a different language, a different, but still we're all existing within the common dream field. All those things don't matter. The heart echo goes below and beyond and around all of them. And so that when I look at the artistry of someone with whom I do not share a common language, culture, with whom I would have great difficulty trying to even make the most basic of communications, words and so on. But yet those Lesko cave paintings hit me right between the eyes, hit me right in the heart, and I know something about this individual, because in the common dream field it doesn't matter. I can feel their echo. I can feel their essence. And that's what I mean by we're born to be creators, because the human common dream field is influenced by that, by the act of creation from within, and then into the field, so that some other creator can sense that and understand it.
It's like when you see on the wall of these paintings the imprint of a human hand.
Yeah.
Right there. And you realize that hand was part of a person who was alive tens of thousands of years ago and had made this creation. And this is how he says, "This is me." It was not a series of symbols, or like how we sign our name to things. He just put his hand there and used the paint to do the outline, so saying, "I'm leaving my imprint here." And it speaks. We as human beings understand what that means. It speaks through the ages. I'm reaching through time so that you may see me. But you'll only see an image of me. You can't see the whole of who I am. But you can see what has been produced by my hand.
Yes. And isn't that, that's, there's so much there. The hand is that with which we use to sense and to create. I mean, the actual act of construction is done with the hand. The reaching through time is so evocative because it's exactly what they're doing. The person, and part of the technique of doing that is they actually hold the pigment in their mouth and they're blowing it. And isn't that evocative? What is the breath but the true breath of life? So you take what is in essence the earth's color, the pigment that they would get from the rocks, mix it with your own saliva perhaps, blow it out of using the breath of your life. I'm alive. I can do this onto my living flesh, onto my hand, and realize that the palm print, the hand print, is a negative. That it is only revealed. It is not me dipping my hand in paint and slapping it on the wall. That may have been done as well, but in essence, this is a ghost. It's a ghost of me. It is what I interrupt in the passage. So it's when you think of it that way, and you could say, oh well, they weren't sophisticated enough to do that. That's just no crap. You can feel the sophistication of this echo because that this is not something you're making up within you, because it's the same message in all. If each one of us was making something up about this, we'd all come up with some other different idea, But no, when you see these, and sometimes they're done in great groups, all across the wall, and you can see them at different heights and different sizes. These are obviously the hands of juveniles, and these are the hands of the older, and they have missing digits, or you can see that these are human individuals expressing a as you said, like a signature. It's truly me. This is a me.
I am sending a pulse down the time stream, and the fact that, as we had said, it's not just the hand print where you're dipping the hand in paint or pigment and slapping it against the wall. They had put their open palm against the wall, and the pigment was sprayed on it so that it outlined the hand. And the message is, I am only leaving a shadow of myself here. That's not who I am completely. But in this moment, where my intersection, the intersection of my world and this two-dimensional screen in front of me, two-dimensional void? No. It's like a canvas, but it's not. It's the wall of a cave. But that two-dimensional space, this is my intersection, and this is my statement, and it reaches through time. It's a lot of sophisticated impression, thought, and human soul to human soul understands this. This is what we look for in another individual. Someone who understands that their reaching out and touching of you is an impression. And when you touch soul to soul, it again brings it to a point where you transverse time into eternity. It is an amazing thing to be human, because you can actually do that on a moment-to-moment basis.
Again, born to be creators. The other thing about that is that the whole thing is not static. It's not just a mark. You can make a mark anywhere. This is a dynamic action, and as you said, a shadow of something which is moving, like water. It was a me moment. It's truly a moment of now. And the now moment isn't the moment of chewing up the pigment, or it isn't the moment of spraying the pigment. It's the moment when you remove your hand. That's the now moment. When you pull the hand away, and there it is.
The revelation.
The revelation.
See, this is what we mean by the revelation.
Mm-hmm.
What is the mystery of that moment?
Mm.
And it is the revealing of the hand on the rock, but it's outlined. It's not the imprint.
It's not just a mark, right? And you know that at that moment, when this individual saw their mark, there was a certain, I would say, it's sort of a gratification, but it's more than that. There's a fulfillment. There's a need being fulfilled. Me was here now. This was the now moment. And it fulfilled something so deep within this individual that you feel the fulfillment of it. In essence, the reception of the message is part of the fulfillment felt 40, 50,000 years ago. The reception of the message in the future, coming all the way back to them.
I think it has a lot to do with the definition of your space.
Mm.
Because when you are in that moment, he has defined his creation in space and time.
Mm.
But he has created it so that you may walk into this experience, walk into it, and take it in.
Mm.
When you take it in and truly receive it, that's when the mystery of what you started with is revealed.
Mm.
And it's part of, you know how we've heard the saying that creation happens to create something, you must create it from the end to the beginning.
Mm.
Understanding that in that intersection moment, just like we were talking about with Michelangelo and David, he had seen the concept within the stone, and he understood that this is a process he would have to go through. But that is the creation of the David from the end.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the end work from the beginning.
Right.
And to see the cave paintings that way as well, to know that this concept, that people will be able to enjoy this, was there, and then he began to paint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To bring it into existence. That wholeness is what the creation is, and that's what I believe love is. It is that encompassment of that moment of now, realizing it will bring it from now to now, to now, to now, to a future now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, in essence, the end to beginning of the handprint on the wall is, I conceive the end, that a timeless future, a future that I cannot even imagine, will connect to me through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I know that when I put it there, and in the moment of revealing, in the moment of completion, is actually the moment of not reaching that end. The construction is complete. You remove your hand and it's done. But the true concept, the true creation, is bringing that now that you had within you, the perfect now that's going to last into the timeless future that is beyond my physical existence, is there, and the end is still coming to me. All that end, each moment each now is now connected all the way to the now 50,000 years from now, because those two nows are the same now. They're always now is always. Now doesn't have any clock on it. Now it's just now.
Well, what that does is it makes it eternal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
This is how it becomes eternal.
Yes. Yes, and true.
And
go ahead.
I wonder many times if the artists themselves, once it's created, do they perceive that? Do they receive that suddenly you've hit the moment which is eternal, and you're receiving the energy that it has generated from a future time? Are you feeling the appreciation, or is it, you wonder about these things, just energetic perception, because it's eternal. So does it come to you? Do you perceive it in some way?
I think so, because I think when you're creating something, truly creating something, you suddenly know that it's done. A true creation, you don't know that it's done until it's done. And when it is done, it's the feeling of completeness, of shalom, of wholeness that comes upon you, that it takes on its own presence in life. And then you say, if I were to do one more thing, it would be ruined. If I were to do one less thing, it would be ruined. You've reached a timeless moment, a moment of nowness, because it's complete. And perhaps even if you say that, well, it's as complete as this medium can do, but this is it. This is it in this medium. I've reached completion. Well, the movie, in which Charlton Heston says, when the Pope says over and over again, when will you be done? When will you make an end? And he says, when I am finished. The statement, when I am finished, isn't a time-bound statement. It's when the being, sees in the creation its completion. That I think that the flow starts coming, and it's done because the flow begins. The future flow, the flow of completeness, of connection, begins, and you perceive it.
Wholeness. So
wholeness.
That wholeness, that feeling of wholeness, is the completion of the circle. In other words, the end and the beginning.
Very good. Yes, exactly right. You've reached it.
There's a certain wholeness to it. Our English falls short. But the idea that a creation is whole is as you said, there's nothing that needs to be added or taken away. It is at that point of closing the circle.
It sort of locks in. It almost, you're going along, filing, doing all the things that you have to do for the artistry, for the construction, and then all of a sudden you hit the last polish or the last chip or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're like, that's
done.
That's it. It's done.
Done.
It surprises the artist as much as anything, as the first revelation of seeing the end in the beginning, and then realizing that this is it, and it's done. I've reached the end I saw in the beginning, and yet it's not over. It's just complete. There's a big difference between complete. Here's a Soul of Everyman. The difference between over and complete. They sound the same. Something's over and it's complete, but they're very different things. Over is a finality. Over has a time boundness to it, but complete enters into a timelessness. It is complete.
Well, over is the end of a process. It's a snippet, but complete is the journey.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe it's a mystery.
Hmm.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
But it is engaging that. How do I say this? The heart expression, which is core to every human being.
Hmm.
That heart expression is so intimately entwined with your soul that I don't believe people understand the power of your soul.
Hmm.
You know, that there's ideas of how or what the soul is. But when you understand that those experiences that are expressed down here are intimately connected with the soul, that's when you begin to engage in truly human.
Yeah. And the experience, the completion of your experience here can be said in some ways to being, no matter how long or short your life is, it was complete.
Yes.
It was whole.
Yes.
It isn't that you finish everything. In fact, you may finish nothing, but you have completed this life in the way in a way such that it takes on a beingness of its own. And so this is seeing the end from the beginning too.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to see the end of this beginning. This show is complete.
Yeah, we have reached the end.
And I think it's perfect. So I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.